I have more money so I can do a lot of shopping. Oh my god. What if I take the money from this? Oh my god. So many money. Oh no, I can't. There says CCTV. No, I can't. I have to put back. First line of defense. As the first line of defense, operational managers own and manage risk. They are also responsible for implementing corrective actions to address, process, and control deficiencies. Operational management is responsible for maintaining effective internal control and for executing risk and control procedures on a day-to-day basis. Operational management identifies, assesses, controls, and mitigates risks, guiding the development and implementation of internal policies and procedures and ensuring that activities are consistent with goals and objectives. As we can see in the scene, the owner of the shop used CCTV to monitor the cashier's work and what's happening in the shop in order to avoid any fraud occur.
Yes, I'm so stressed. So many things to be done, but the time keep running out. Miss Adrina only know how to ask my work. Depreciation need to be calculated, but I'm not sure what method the company used before this. I think straight line method. Whatever lah, I will just do the calculation and Miss Adrina can be happy. Okay, I'm done. So I can go back and meet my husband and my children.
Yeah. Can you wait for a moment? Yes, Azima. Miss Azman, I call you back, right? Okay, bye. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Miss Adrina.
Yes, Azima.
Sorry for disturbing you. Can I sit?
Yeah, sure.
This I have done the report for company Anggun Serious in the Berhad.
Oh.
You can see, you can check the
Have you
report.
done the precision calculation as well?
Yes, I have done. You can check.
Okay, quite fast. It's good. Okay, I'll check first, and then I will just call you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Azima.
Thank you, Miss Adrina.
Right. Oh yeah, I need to check Azima's work. The depreciations amount. This is wrong. The calculation is wrong for the depreciation. It's okay. I'm gonna check the file from the year before. This is the file from the year 1. I'm going to compare with Azima work. Yeah, this is it. Let us see from year 1. So in year 1, the company is using straight line method. Okay. Why did Azima say that this year is using reducing balance? No wonder the depreciation and calculation is wrong. Oh my god. So stressed. Azima didn't go back home yet. I need to call her and ask her to come back. Azima, please pick up.
Hello.
Hello Azima, where are you?
I'm at the office.
Can you come to my room? I need
of
to
course.
discuss something with you.
Yeah, of course. Wait,
Thanks Azima.
Okay.
Yes, Azima.
Hi,
I'm
Miss
so-
Edna.
Yeah, I'm sorry to call you back.
Yes.
But okay, this is a serious problem.
Yes.
Oh yeah, sorry Azima. Okay, so as you can see here, in year 1, the company is using straight line method to calculate the depreciation.
Yes.
But I didn't know if that you realized that in year 2, this year, you're using reducing balance to record depreciation. So the consequences is our calculation of the depreciation and also the accumulated depreciation will be different.
Okay.
And this will lead to the wrong profit in the SOPL. Okay, so I want you to adjust back the amount and make sure that you didn't repeat the same mistake.
Okay. Sorry, Miss.
It's okay. I hope that you can adjust this amount and then you can submit back to me.
Okay, alright. I'll do it. I'll do it right now.
Thank you, Azima. This is a big mistake and I'm glad that I can detect it early, okay? Alright. You can bring this and this one as a reference, okay?
So,
Yeah. Sorry, Azima. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Miss.
Alright.
Anything, just call me, okay?
Sure.
Why I am so careless? I'm doing mistake. Okay. So I have to adjust the depreciation calculation for this company. Okay. So last year they using straight line method. This year I'm using the straight line method also. Okay. Only depreciation. Still only depreciation. So I'm done. I'll call Miss Adrina to ask whether she's at the office or not.
Yes, Azima.
Yeah. Yes, Miss Adrina. Sorry
Yeah,
for
what is
this. Okay, sorry for disturbing you. I want to ask you whether you are at the office or not.
Yeah. But I'll be at the office in like 15 minutes. After that, you can come in, right?
Okay. I want to show you the report that you asked
For the
me to.
depreciation calculation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you, Miss. Bye.
Alright. Oh yes, Azima.
Hi, Miss Adrina.
Yeah.
Sorry to disturb you.
It's okay. You called me just now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I want to give you the report that I have adjusted for depreciation using straight line method. Right. So you can check.
Okay. You had emailed me, right? The latest calculation.
Not yet, but I will email to you soon.
Okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Let me check first, and
Okay.
then I'm going to update. If anything is good, I'm going to pass it to the internal auditor.
Okay.
Alright.
So this the file or the company I'm going to show you.
Thank you, Azima.
Okay,
You may
anything?
go. Yeah, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Miss.
So you want straight line, okay, 1,342, and then this is the second year. Okay, 447. Okay, now it's tally. Okay, everything is good. The report also good. I can now give the file to the internal auditor. Hello, I'm going to the internal auditor office, alright? Okay. Is anything, just take note. Thank you. Oh yeah. Marlene, I'm coming.
For the second line of defense, the second line of defense consists of activities covered by several components of internal governance, which is compliance, risk management, quality, IT, and other control departments. This line of defense monitors and facilitates the implementation of effective risk management practice by operational management and assists the risk owners in reporting adequate risk-related information up and down the organization. So, as we can see in the scene, the manager has reviewed the financial statement prepared by the staff, and she detects some error that has been done by the staff. The manager then asks the staff to make an amendment on the financial statement. Okay.
Yeah, come.
Hey, what's up, Marlene?
Hi.
Are you
How are
busy?
you?
Yeah, good. Oh yeah. So I got a new file for you about our client, Citra Anggun.
Oh, okay.
So
Come sit first.
it's okay. I need to rush. You just check it and then just update me, right?
I will check as soon as possible. Thank
Alright.
you.
Thank you, Marlene.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, this one, the statement by Edwina. Financial statement. So the evidence, where's the evidence? Okay, this one. Now I will check the statement with the evidence. Okay, now the statement is we need to match with the evidence. Amount for cash, bank statement amount 56,000, balance, okay, match, and account payable 10,000. Okay, done. So all is matched. Okay, good. Okay. In system. Okay. Okay, now all is balanced. Okay, I need to call Adrina. I make a meeting for this. Okay, good.
Hello?
Hello. Lily, can you call our BOD and make confirmation for with them? We're going to have a meeting for finalize the statement, financial statement.
Oh, sure. Okay, I will call our BOD right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Why do you guys think that Marlene called us for a meeting? Where is she, huh?
I think Marlene want to show
Hi,
us.
good morning.
Oh, hi, Marlene.
How are
You're
you
here.
guys?
Good.
Good.
So what is it that you're calling? For us?
I'm just made a meeting just to give you all the finalized financial statement that has been reviewed.
Okay.
This is the document. So
This has
want
been
you-
reviewed.
yeah,
by the top management
I've
and you.
already checked and reviewed the financial statement,
Okay.
and all I can ensure for you guys from what I review, there's nothing wrong with financial statement.
Okay.
So I can give assurance to you guys that statement is complete and all the statement is follow the standard. So now from what I see, I want to get your opinions from you guys, and there's anything that we can improve from these statements, this report. Okay. And then from what
This one, like, it is already like this now.
yeah, from what I know,
Like this lah. It is usually like this.
yeah, the statement should be like already prepared. And then from my suggestion for this admin expenses, I suggest we need to reduce the cost for that because we already spend too much money for that expenses. And then because of that, we need to focus on the activity. We just need to what we call spend for what necessary and not necessity.
Instead of necessity.
Yeah. And then I want you guys review first and give a recommendation you guys think
what
suitable for our business.
Okay.
So
Anything?
there's nothing I want to tell you guys.
Okay.
This is finalized, and anything you can just call me.
Okay.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
So Azima and Fatin, I think that we need to review this first lah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll update you later lah. Malin, thank you for calling us, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Internal audit form the organization third line of defense. An independent internal audit function will, through the risk-based approach to its work, provide assurance to organization board of directors and senior management. This assurance will cover how effectively the organization assess and manage its risk and will include the assurance of effectiveness of the first and second line of defense. It encompasses all the elements of institution of risk management framework, which is from the risk identification, risk assessment, and the response to communication of risk-related information, and all the categories of organizational objective, which is strategic, ethical, operational, and reporting, and the compliance. From the previous video, the internal auditor made a cross-check between financial statement and its supporting document. For example, the balance of bank statement matched with the amount of cash stated in financial statement. Once internal auditor made a checklist, she gave the assurance about the financial statement to the board of directors.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by me, Bethany Servin of My Compliance Office and third-party risk expert and president of Antala, Linda Tuck Chapman.
So the three lines of defense model has, I like this version of it because it's a little bit more clear. So I took this from a Association of Independent Auditors. I think it's called Independent Auditors Association. They put out a position paper on the three lines of defense. And you can see it's not new, January 13th. And that was actually adopted from some regulatory guidance that came out of the EU. So this notion of the three lines of defense has been around for quite a few years, but it really is taking hold in companies no matter what the industry, because it makes it a lot more simple to explain who does what in a risk management function, and particularly in third-party risk management. So if you go back to it, basically, you're always going to have a governing committee, some sort of board or audit committee that oversees the activities of the company, regardless of the size of the company. So this is all intended to make sure that, that they can do their jobs. They have responsibility for fiduciary oversight. And the things that most interest them in the three lines of defense is, who are the most critical of your third parties? They always want to know how much money their company is spending with them. It's not a risk factor, but it's certainly good to know. It puts some context. And they do want to understand what risks these critical third parties are presenting to your company, whether there's been any serious incidents or issues during the period. And you're going to align yourself with other board reporting that goes before them. Particularly, I would say that every board meeting now has a cyber or information security risk presentation. So those people are going to be able to give details. You're going to be able to give an overview of the portfolio of relationships that matter the most, what types of services they're providing to your company, and whether or not there's something that's good, bad, or indifferent that has happened in the period. And then more information can come from other board reports. Especially early days, you're going to find that they do have a lot of questions about this. This is a learning curve for your board as well. So sometimes you're going to do this directly to the board, and sometimes you're going to present to the audit committee, who will report this information on your behalf. So bear in mind, your average board report is sometimes up to 10,000 pages now that they have to read in advance. So you want to be crisp, and you want to tell them something useful. So then if you think about the role of senior management in the 3 lines of defense, it really is to translate the risk appetite that the board has approved into the risk culture in the organization. And the risk culture consists of many different things. One is they have to set the tone. So if you think back to our poll, we had, I think it was 36% of companies have a strong risk culture, and that's no accident. That's their board saying this is important, but more importantly, from a day-to-day perspective, that is their senior management team. So your senior management team, you can look for indicators that risk is important. Is it part of a performance review? You may be able to determine, it may say in your public governance statements that the senior executive, in fact, part of their compensation is tied to their ability to manage risk. And one of the companies that I do business with, they do a town hall once a quarter, and there's a segment on the risk management activities and results for the company, so that everybody recognizes that they are a key part of delivering and making sure that they walk the walk, talk the talk in the risk culture. Senior management also, they do have to approve your policies. They should actually get board reporting. I worked with a small company lately, and they did not get reporting up to the board level on the risk components. That needs to be part of the board agenda, but it also has to go through senior management first. So you can help them do their jobs effectively by giving them great information. One company that I'm aware of, they actually have a subcommittee of the board that is a third-party risk management organization. And so it reports into the board, not through the audit committee, but as its own subcommittee directly to the board. So it shows you that there's a lot of companies out there really taking this seriously. If you're in the financial services sector, I just would like to point out to you that if, in fact, your third-party risk management program is not seen to be adding the controls and the oversight that your company should be delivering, it can affect your overall rating that your regulator gives you. So if you've ever heard of a CAMELS rating, capital assets, management, equity, and liquidity, the M rating, the CAMELS rating, the M is management, and this is one of the things that they rate management capabilities on, is the effectiveness of your third-party risk management program. So imagine you can actually affect your company's overall risk rating or overall rating with the regulators, which affects many, many things, if you do this well or if you don't do it well. And that's another reason why it's a board agenda item. So that's kind of the oversight basically. And then you've got the lines of defense. So the first line of defense is always, if you think about your company as having a moat around it, and your third-party risk management program is part of that, part of the water in the moat. You've got your business units really are out there. They're the first line of defense. They're on the ramparts because it is their responsibility to manage these relationships through their life cycle, to make good decisions about how much risk they're willing to take on or should take on, and to deal effectively if there are problems. So they are always called your first line of defense, and make no mistake, they own the risk. No matter what function you're in, they own the risk because they own the business and they own the outcomes. And I've seen some blurriness in some companies, trying to figure that out, because there are a lot of folks in your company, if you have a big company or if you're in financial services, who can help you determine what the risks are, right? So they go through the evaluation, they set the framework, etc. They are a support function. They're in the second line, which I'll talk about in a minute. They do not own the risk. They're helping the first line do their job, which is manage their business. So the first line of defense has really two responsibilities. They have the overall management controls for the business, which includes their third parties, and then they have the ways that they actually can measure the effectiveness of those controls, internal and external. So they can not manage the third party, but they can manage their own business. So all of this is incorporated into their overall view of how their business runs, and so it is all about control metrics for their business, including their third parties. So the next thing to consider is the second line of defense. So the second line of defense is really all those people who are in quote-unquote risk control functions. They have the expertise in various areas of risk, and these are the typical areas of control for your second line of defense. You know, you've got the money, you've got the security, you've got the overall risk management, quality, inspection, and compliance. So these people have made a career of being expert in what's required in order to do what is known as identify, assess, manage, and control risk. And so in order to do their job, they need to look outside the company and inside the company and see how the pieces fit together in order to support that first line of defense. Their role in third-party risk management is really sort of three primary functions. One is they have to help establish the program, right? They're expert in it, and this is kind of a team sport. So if you are responsible for the overall program, it wouldn't be possible for you to create a good program without risk experts with deep expertise in various areas like information security, business resilience, etc. They come together with you to help put the right framework in place, understand, how to recognize the risks, what to do about them, how to assess them, and that'll all fit together. So that really is the second line of defense and the responsibility. The third line of defense, they can never actually, if they actually should never have direct responsibility for owning the risk or in fact going through the assessment processes. I've seen companies where it crosses the line, but actually that's not considered acceptable in the world of audit. So audit needs to be separate and distinct as its own line of defense. And if they sit on your committees, which I would highly recommend, they sit as a quote-unquote ex officio member. They do not have voting rights, but they certainly have right to an opinion, and you should ask for their opinion, because they're responsible for auditing the effectiveness of the programs that you put in place and the controls that you are using as standard controls. So they have an audit function responsibility over the first and the second line of defense separately. So one thing I will note, though, if you're in the second line of defense, you're probably being pulled very, very heavily into first line of defense audits, because those relationships are owned in the first line of defense. And when they have problems meeting the audit requirements, you're going to be pulled in to help them clean things up or deal with that. My advice to you is do not get named in the audit report as a responsible party, because you own the framework, you own the governance, you need to own the oversight. You don't own the risk, and therefore, if you are named as an accountable party in their audit report, you should point out to them that they can't control your actions any more than you actually can control theirs. So that's the function of the internal audit, and a little bit of advice if you're in the second or first line. And then you've got, of course, your external audit, which really looks at overall the effectiveness of the program, effectiveness of controls, and what internal audit is looking at. And if you're, regardless of what industry, you're going to have your regulator looking at parts or all of your program and sampling how effective it is in its operation. So this is really the three lines of defense framework. And in the long run, it kind of stretches my imagination to think about, could it be anything different? Because this is a nice simple model. People can remember three. Where the controversy comes in is really people who are in a second line of defense function, but also work very, very closely with the first line. I'm going to speak directly about procurement right now. So procurement basically is, in my view, a second line of defense function. They don't actually own these relationships. They are responsible for putting a good program in place to go out and source them. And some organizations, many organizations, have third-party risk management as a part of the overall procurement organization. So if you think about it logically, there's been lots of talk about, if you have lines 1, 2, and 3, they talk about procurement as being in 1A. So a lot of companies put procurement into the first line of defense as a sort of a secondary, as opposed to a primary first line of defense. I personally would argue with that because you don't own the risk. You own the responsibility to help get there. Now, procurement also is often in itself is first line of defense function because there's lots of orphan relationships that nobody else really wants to own, and they always end up in procurement. And those are travel companies, office supplies, quite often couriers, etc., where there's no logical owner. And so they often end up in procurement. In that case, you are a first line of defense function because you own the relationship and you own the risk, whatever risks are present. So if you're in an organization with an enterprise risk management function, just get it signed off that you can be both in the first and second line. Otherwise, you're going to have to move the responsibility for managing those relationships to some other place, like maybe in operations, for example. The other thing is that in the second line of defense, I hear this as also 2A and 2B, because many organizations have kind of a purist view to say that the only groups that can actually be in the second line proper are in fact people who are directly reporting to the risk organization. So if you have a large risk organization such as is found in a bank, they have responsibility for the overall risk framework and very specific areas of risk: credit risk, operational risk, and market risk are the three primary functions, and there's many sub-functions, model risk, etc., that they're responsible for. And so I've seen organizations where it's kind of a purist view of the world that unless you're actually in the risk organization, you can't be in the second line. And I think that that's a little bit confusing for the business because it's just easier for them to know that, there is a superstructure inside of the second line of defense, and the superstructure is the enterprise risk management or the operational risk management function. But in order to be able to deliver, they actually have to rely on the risk management capabilities of other functions, including third-party risk management, business resilience or business continuity management, insurance, fraud, legal, model risk, procurement, etc. Those parties all come together to deliver the overall risk management promise to the company. So if you have any influence on this, try and keep it clean and simple. It's a lot easier to orient your organization to the three lines of defense if you only have 1, 2, and 3, as opposed to 1A or 1.5, 2A, 2.5, etc. That gets confusing, and those are kind of like head office points of conflict or points of disagreement, as opposed to something everybody in the company should understand. So that's what I have to say on the three lines of defense. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to field them.